Andy, what have you found the key elements are to making hybrid events successful?
So I think there were two pieces early on that became important. One was making sure that the remote viewers and participants had priority on participation. So making sure that folks that are in the room continually reminding to make sure that they're looking for questions in chats or calling that out, making sure there's basically a proctor that can act as a voice for that remote audience that's in the room to make sure that their participation doesn't get lost. It sometimes gets easy in conversations to miss things. We even have it happen just in Zoom calls and Teams meetings around that. So it becomes an important piece of it. As we've continued to mature it, we've actually at Microsoft started incorporating some of the gaming technologies we have, because really online gameplay is really just about community building, and it's often in multiple locations, sometimes in a hybrid environment. And so bringing in technologies that help users stay connected to events remotely through that lens has been an interesting area, and we're looking at adapting more of that as we move forward in sort of just next-gen engagement for viewing, whether it's in person or remote.
I would say that the number one thing, I'm always going to give a technical answer. The number one thing to have at a hybrid event, if you want a hybrid event to be successful, is a good audio engineer. Number one, and that's it. Because almost every event that I've ever had that came close to failing was because an audio engineer didn't understand the concept of mix minus, and which most audio engineers don't get, right? It's like when an audio engineer first does comms for the first time, or does a clear comm, or 4-wire to 2-wire, or 2-wire to anything else, and they go, well, what's mix minus? What's null? And you're just like, okay, a telephone? And you just start getting into this whole conversation about technology. That's probably the number one thing. And the number two thing I would say is to pile on what Andy said is, I think that in news and sports, over the last 10 years, we've done a really good job of making the remote person who shows up, the speaker, feel good, right? To what you said, right? Yeah. And so much of what happened, especially in the last 2 years, for people that were just getting into it, they didn't realize that, I need to give that person a really good experience because they are alone, right? And there is this loneliness that comes from it, and it's little things, right? It's communicating with them effectively. It's things that a lot of people up here, maybe people here, are going to laugh at, but it's how you do your tech checks, the vibe you have on your tech check. Those things all contribute to your experience going really well.
Yeah, that one that we've definitely focused on. I totally agree. So even back to my editing days, 90% of video is audio.
Audio drives video.
Yep. Yeah. And that's never a question. But to your point, even when we have conferences like this, where you're going to have people in an audience asking questions, making sure that nobody's speaking that's not on camera, so that the people that are remote aren't getting lost in where the conversation's coming from, what the context for a piece is, and yes, to your point, the audio is just continually the hard part that seems to, if it fails, it doesn't matter. You've lost.